we would like to bring on Mr. Vorhaus and Miss Marika Canlis. So everyone's popping on right now, just so you can see we have our full group coming on. I see Mr. John Vorhaus over there.
Hello.
With your magic microphone.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely. You're crystal clear, my friend. Before I introduce you, I get to introduce everybody I love today. First, I'm going to tell you that this event is sponsored by Marika McCandless, who's waving right there. Yay. I've known Marika for a long time, and I've had the privilege of being her writing coach, and because it is a pleasure being her writing coach because she's so completely talented, and she's also so she's an award-winning author. She's also a longtime awareness practitioner, which is something that right now is so needed. What she calls her recipe for enlivenment, I love that word, enlivenment, is listen, play, and write. And she leads a popular online writing practice called Right Now Mind. She wanted to say hello to any of her Right Now people that are out there. And she offers workshops in meditation and writing. She's been one of our lead volunteers for today's virtual festival, so she's been behind the scenes. She's an exquisite memoirist, written a spectacular award-winning book entitled More, Journey to Mystical Union Through the Sacred and the Profane. It is a page turner. And Marika wants to invite you all to the launch of her new website on July 21st from 11:30 to 1 p.m. We're going to have gift baskets and giveaways and readings and interactive writing sessions. So come join her and get to know Marika if you don't know about her. So thank you for sponsoring us, Marika.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad you guys are doing this. It's awesome. Thank you.
And in the link, the link will be in the comments if you'd like to learn more about Marika or about coming to the launch of her website. So you can check that out. So just an awesome group of people we have that are supporting us to help this happen right now. I am so glad that we get to bring in Mr. John Vorhaus. I actually have my copy of my.
Oh, me too.
This is like this is probably my fourth one, but this is the one that you signed. So this is the one I hold near and dear. So I called John my writing guru. He's been my writing guru before he knew me. I got his book, and both me and my husband Carlos, we dog-eared it and underlined it, and he has other books as well, but that's the one where we were introduced to him. It's called the Comic Toolbox, How to Be Funny Even If You're Not, and it breaks things down in such a just beautifully delicious, fun, easy to access way that it became an invaluable tool for us, and our careers kicked off a lot more after we read the book. So, and then I got to know John, and I'm very happy to call him a friend of mine. So I'm going to give you a little speech about you now. So John Vorhaus has taught and trained writers in 36 countries on 5 continents. His Comic Toolbox is the last word on humor for comedy writers worldwide. And I would say even if you're not a comedy writer, they're great tools. And his white belt in art does the same job for people who want to unleash their visual creativity. Join him now for the 100 Head Project. He's doing 100 self-portraits in 100 days. You'll find the link in the comments section. And what John is doing, I love this so much, is he's doing 100 self-portraits in 100 days to raise money for coronavirus relief worldwide. So as I said before, he's the one I call my creative guru, and the person that's gotten me through many writing blocks. And I know that's what he's here to do today.
Yes. And we want to welcome all of our on-screen workshop attendees. Thank you for being here. We want to encourage everyone watching on Facebook Live as well that you can participate as well. You can post your questions to the Facebook comment section, and we'll be monitoring that for the Q&A, and then we'll pass those questions along to John. And also after the event, you can look for a handout that we're going to put on our website that's going to be full of awesome tips. So Also, one final mention, the session is recorded. So if you happen to miss something, or you were taking a note on something and you want to come back and review it, you'll be able to do that at a later time on Facebook, on our website, and on YouTube. So, and now I think we're going to, Marnie, we're going to turn it over to John, and we will see you guys on the
other side.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Marnie, Anastasia, Marika, my old friends, some new friends. It's great to see the participants here today, and it's great to imagine the people who I can't see scattered all over San Diego and Southern California and the whole wide, beautiful world. We have a lot of ground to cover and not a lot of time, so I'm going to jump right into it. Marnie, if you're still around, can you tell me when my hard out is and when you'd like to start Q&A? And if you're not around, I'll just vamp until you turn up. Or
Marty, you're unmuted. You can talk to John. You're just a mysterious entity right now.
You are a mysterious entity. Oh, we will text you. Okay, fine. All right, I'm going to jump right into it. I hope that you participants have access to paper and pen. That is the people in the workshop and the folks at home, everybody. I hope you'll be prepared to take a couple of notes, because one of the things I'm a big fan of is writing things down, not as a writer, not for the sake of creating written words, but just for the sake of discovering who we are, what makes us tick. In my experience, thinking about things here inside my noggin is not as effective as putting them in front of my face where I can see them. So today we're going to talk about some simple concepts, and we're going to put them in front of our face where we can see them. And my hope is that you can use this information to gain a deeper understanding of what you are about as a creative practitioner. By way of scene setting, in this time of coronavirus especially, when we're all under such pressure and under such a great sense of lack of control, we've seen a huge spike in creativity. People are inspired to stand against the chaos by making their voice heard. This is something that we're drawn to, but it's also a challenge for us because we feel like the stakes are really high. And if we don't stake our claim and make our statement, some rich, valuable opportunity will be lost. And this puts a lot of pressure on us, and I'm going to try and help you relieve some of that pressure because it doesn't really do us much good in our creative process. So we're going to take a look at something that I call practice, and we're going to break it down into its component parts. And I hope that this will deepen your understanding of what your practice is and how you can do what you want to do and what you love to do much more effectively. This discussion is designed to help you think more concretely about all aspects of your writing practice or your practice of art or any sort of practice at all. For starters, we'll need to define some terms, and these are the terms: passion, purpose, path, and of course, practice. I'm going to walk through this slowly. We'll have plenty of time to get these definitions up to speed, but I'm going to name them all for you and then we'll break them down. First, we have passion. Passion is the thing that you do that you love. For instance, writing. I have a passion for writing. I love to write, therefore writing is my passion. Purpose is your goal or your reason for doing something. Now, purpose can be a little bit tricky. You can have purpose in the sense of it's my purpose to make a living, or you can have purpose in the sense of it is my purpose to enlighten or inspire other people. So purpose is pretty broad-based, but you like to think about it as the fuel that fires the engine. Purpose is, sorry, I'm looking at a note here. There we go. Okay, thank you. Purpose is the energizer to your process. Path. Path is your process of self-development. Path is the way you get from where you are to where you want to be. For example, you might decide to write a novel, a first novel. You are on the path of writing the novel. And from the moment you make the decision, I choose to write a novel, until the time you deliver the novel to the publisher, you are and continue to be on your path. More broadly, we, you and I, are on a greater path through our life, a path to greater self-understanding, self-acceptance, self-actualization, self-awareness. And that's a lot to take on and a lot to unpack on a hot Saturday afternoon. So let's not go too far down that road, but let's just keep in mind that wherever you are in the broad scheme of your life, you are on a path of some kind. And no matter where you are on that path, you're always moving forward on the path. There's simply no such thing as standing still, as long as you're breathing in and breathing out. I find this very useful day in and day out when I'm feeling frustrated or blocked or thwarted in my creative ambition. It's good to know that merely by living, I'm advancing on my path. And finally, we have practice. And practice is how we advance toward our goals. Practice is how we build the craft, the capability, and the skills that get us where we want to be. For example, if your path is to write a first novel, then your practice is the act of writing that novel. We have these four things: passion, purpose, path, and practice. When these forces are aligned in our lives, we find that we are doing something that we love in service of something that we care deeply about. And the union of these forces, the union of doing something you love with something you care about, is a powerful synergy that puts you, by definition, in your practice. And writer to writer, I want to tell you, we think a lot about outcomes, we think a lot about success, we think a lot about trying and failing and striving. From my heart to yours, let me tell you, being in your practice is all you have to do. If you are engaged in growing yourself as a creative professional, you're doing everything you need to do. Now, in my experience of creative problem solving, if I have a hard problem to solve, I find that I can't quite solve it, so I break it down into smaller and smaller pieces that help me solve the problem. And that's what I'm doing here by taking a look at the broad way I go about doing my art and breaking it down into these component parts of passion, purpose, path, and practice. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of my own, and then I'm going to ask you to generate some examples of your own. This is the interactive part of the workshop. Here, for example, as I said, a passion of mine is for writing. I have a passion for writing. My purpose in writing is often to help other people advance their practice. My path toward this goal is simply developing a deeper understanding of how I go about doing my job as a writer so that I can articulate these ideas to other people. And my practice involves consistently refining these concepts and sharing them with others. When these forces are aligned, I find myself doing things like leading this very workshop here. So if you want to know what is the end result of passion plus purpose plus path plus practice, it's right here in front of you. You get to do things in the world that have the potential to be meaningful to other people. But also, for me, a passion of mine is art. Now, when I say that my art is my passion, then I say my purpose in my art is to put my art where people can see it. My path toward this is my deepening understanding of my relationship with art, why I make the pictures I make, how I make them, and what purpose it serves. And then my practice is simply the act of getting better at taking the ideas that are in my head and turning them into pictures. And once again, when all of these forces are aligned, there is a tangible outcome that I can point to. For instance, as Marnie mentioned, I'm doing this thing called the 100 Head Project, 100 self-portraits in 100 days as a fundraiser for Doctors Without Borders. You will find the link to this in the text box eventually. You'll also see some examples in the handout that I've prepared for you. This is not for self-aggrandizement necessarily, a little bit of self-promotion, but just to demonstrate that by taking these forces in my life and aligning them, pointing them toward each other, I put myself in a position to enjoy the powerful synergy that comes when all elements are in harmony. If you want to see an example of how this doesn't work, think about a situation where you're very, very good at something, but you don't care about it. like it's a job that you have capability in, but the job doesn't turn you on. Those forces are not aligned, and you won't do as well as you can do, because no matter how good you are at it, no matter how advanced your practice is, you'll lack that essential fuel of purpose to drive you forward, or that essential engine of passion to make the whole thing work. On the other hand, you might be full of passion, but have no capability. So you have a passionate desire to share your words with the world. That's great. But until you connect that passion to a practice and a craft, you cannot operate in it as effectively as you like. Okay, with this scene setting in place, let's make the following observation. As a creative practitioner, as a writer, you can have many passions, many purposes, many paths, and so on. There's no law that says you need to have only one. I'm a poster child for this concept. In the long course of my life, I've been a songwriter, advertising copywriter, sitcom writer, artist, mime, ventriloquist. I've done a lot of different things. I've been passionate about many, many different things in my life. And I find that no matter where I invest my passion, as long as that central link is there, taking something I'm good at and applying it to something I love or something I care about, the math always works, my life always rises, my path always moves forward. Okay, let's get down to it. I'd like you to take a moment and make a short list of all the passions you now know that you have. Don't get hung up by thinking about your one true passion, like this is the capital P passion of my life. For reasons we'll discuss shortly, that just puts a lot of pressure on you that you don't need to have. And also, I want you to understand that passion is something that exists in your life now, today, in many, many different forms already. So write it down. Make a short list of things that you know turn you on in your life. If I'm generating that list, I'm seeing things like writing, art, poker, ultimate frisbee, making jokes, playing with my dog, loving my family, so on and so forth. These are my passions. Take a moment, maybe 30 seconds, write down as many passions as you have as quickly as you can. And if somebody wants to throw one or two into the chat box for me to muse upon, I will be happy to take that information from you. Otherwise, we'll all just sit here in uncomfortable silence for 30 seconds. Lisa Churchville says her passions are cooking, writing, and learning. All right, those are good, solid, actionable passions. Here we go. We see writing, being a mom, cooking, art, graphic design, outdoor adventure, business, meditation. Hadn't thought about that as a passion, but sure, why not? Okay, travel, cultural immersion, sharing, writing stories. Folks, do you see how easy this is? Before we started, if I'd said to you, let's talk about passion, you might get scared because it's, like I said, this capital P passion. There's so much burden that we place on ourselves. The minute we stop thinking about the passion and start thinking about our several passions, we unfold, and the possibilities of our life present themselves to us easily and effortlessly. This is the first stage in letting go of that horrible sense of obligation that we put on our artistic experience. The minute we say to ourselves, there's not one thing that I'm passionate about, but many things that I'm passionate about, it's much easier to think about and engage with any one of those passions so much more simply. Good work. All right, now let's take a look at our purposes. And I know I'm taking some time to walk these things through because there's a lot of words that begin with the letter P just by accident. And it's sometimes hard to know where one leaves off and the other begins. So again, let me remind you that purpose is the reason you're doing this thing. You might think of purpose as the impact you wish to achieve in the world, or the change you wish to create, or the outcome you wish to generate for yourself or for other people. And again, don't get hung up on this idea of one true purpose. Because if I say to myself, what is my purpose in life? I'm immediately going to clutch up. I'm going to get scared. I'm going to get burdened by expectation. I will become overwhelmed. But the minute I say to myself, you know, you can have lots more than one purpose. You can have as many purposes as you can think of. Again, that relieves me of the burden of having to identify the one thing that controls all things and leaves me much more free to muse upon the many different ways I desire to create change in the world. For instance, I can think of these as purposes that exist in my life: teaching writers, touching lives, providing guidance, leaving a legacy, having fun, enriching myself, enriching others. These are the goals that I set for myself in a kind of a philosophical sense. And as we did before, I'm going to ask you to make a short list of things that you can identify as the purposes in your life. Before we do that, though, there's one thing I want to point out. You might say to yourself, I recognize this as my purpose, but I also recognize that I'm no place close to achieving it. Like you might have it as your purpose, I want to end world hunger. That's a huge goal. You know for sure that you're not capable of doing it right this second. Please don't worry about that. There's a little voice inside your head that says, if my purpose is not realistic, I cannot state it for the record. This voice coming out of my mouth is telling you, even if it's completely unrealistic, and even if you think it's beyond your grasp right now, the first step toward bringing it into your grasp is identifying it. And the first step toward identifying it is, again, writing it down. So let's go ahead and write down as many different purposes as you can think of. Purpose A, B, C, and D. And again, we can throw some into the chat window so we can start to see the difference between what is a passion, a thing I'm excited about, and what is a purpose, a thing I desire to do. Give voice to the marginalized, encourage expression. What else? Give voice to the marginalized, especially with emotional trauma, disabilities with authenticity. Entertain, teach, inspire, make the world a better place, champion those without voices. Again, we see the desire to use our voice to help other people have their voice. Be the light that writers have been to me. Have fun, connect with others. One or two more. Tell the story of someone who has been overlooked. Entertain, learn more about myself. Help others not feel alone. Now they're coming too fast. Break stigma of miscarriage. Give teens hope. Nourish, sustain. You start to see that we think about our purpose in terms of internal purpose, things that we're doing for the sake of ourselves, like learning more about myself, and also external purpose, things that we want to do out of a desire to help others, nourish other writers, inform, enlighten. All of this stuff is the basic fundamental building block of our practice. And now look what we have. You have identified for yourself passions, and you have identified for yourself purposes. And now you can start to look for connections between these two. For this, we'll say, let's think about our passions and our purposes in the light of our path. The question I ask is, what steps can you take now, today, to operate at the intersection of a passion and a purpose that you know? Here I am on my path at the intersection of my passion for informing, teaching writers, and my passion for thinking about this stuff, and my purpose of enlightening writers. I stand at the intersection of my passion and my purpose, and I can move effectively. Let's say that your passion is writing children's books, and your purpose is teaching children to brush their teeth. Small passion, small purpose. But if you set out to write a children's book called Barney Brushes His Teeth, you have it locked in. You're right there in the middle of your path. You know exactly what you want to do, write a children's book, and you know exactly why you want to do it, to teach kids to brush their teeth. You can see, I hope you can see, right here in this moment, that this simple act of breaking things down into their component parts really gives you laser focus on where you are right now and where you want to go next. I don't know if you've had this problem. I have it all the time. I look at my desk, I finish one project, I don't know what project to turn to next. I mean, of course, I've got lists there of things that I want to do, but I find I often cannot think effectively about what comes next. If I try to create something out of nothing, I'm making the problem hard to solve. If I break it down into its component parts, I make it so much easier to solve. I can say to myself, what am I currently passionate about? Making art. What do I currently conceive as a purpose? Contributing to the fight against COVID-19. At the intersection of passion and purpose, I'm doing self-portraits as a fundraiser. That's the math of creative expression. Let's take another example. Suppose I know that I have a passion for art and a purpose for getting my work in front of other people. I can hang my work in local coffee shops. I mean, assuming local coffee shops were ever open anymore. But you see what I'm driving at. When you identify these component parts of your intention, you make it much easier to come up with concrete goals. And you have the certainty that the goals you set for yourself are bound to be fruitful goals because they're harmonious with your overall intention. They align with your passion, they align with your purpose, they put you on a path that you want to be on. Anybody who wants to be a writer has the problem of, why am I writing? What is this for? How do I decide what to say? And we can get lost in this. We can get lost thinking about what the audience wants, or what the reader wants, or what the agent wants. The true path is to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want to express? What do I want to teach? Who do I want to change? And how do I want to change them? Then, when you align that with your writing, you will energize your writing and make it much more forceful and much less fretful. All right. We've identified an intersection of passion and purpose. We say, here's something that I'm good at. No, sorry. Here's something that I care a lot about, and here's something that I want to achieve. I'm going to try it one more time. I don't think I've got it quite right. I told you, man, all these P words, they get confusing. Here's something that I love to do, and here's something that I want to achieve with what I love to do. That's a specific intersection between passion and purpose. Take a moment now and write down just a couple of fragments of sentences that would express the intersection or the sum of taking something you love and applying it to something you care about. Go ahead and do that now. Again, what we're looking for is taking something that you know you love and applying it to something that you know you care a lot about. What should come out of this is a very concrete understanding of a thing that you might do within your practice to advance it. A thing that you might do to move yourself further along the goals that you see for yourself as a professional or as an avid amateur. When you come up with those, you can drop them into the chat window and we can discuss them. Lisa says, is this what you mean? But I'm looking to see what you said, Lisa, what you're following up on that. Oh, there it is. Write articles, teach a Zoom class on morning practice, write a book. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm talking about. Teaching a Zoom class is something that you might identify as something you'd love to do. And helping people improve their morning practice is the goal that you're intending to serve. So yes, that's your path. You're right there at the intersection of something you love to do and something you care a lot about. Writing a memoir about my journey as a Christian with mental illness to break stigma and make others feel less alone in the struggle. Wow, that's beautiful. It's such a hard concept to wrap your brain around abstractly, but so easy to understand when you have a formula for putting it in words in its simplest terms. You can see that if you set out to write that memoir, I imagine you're already engaged in it now, it's going to be so powerful for the simple reason that it's something you know how to do and something you know you want to do, and it's harnessed to this important desire to help other people do what they're trying to do. Lauren X says, mothering and nurturing. I'm raising thoughtful and kind human beings, or trying to. And may I just say thank you for that, because thoughtful and kind human beings seem to be in super short supply these days. Donna Jones says, write a historic fiction about a story of a woman who has heretofore been overlooked but is fascinating. I see the passion, write historic fiction. I'm not sure what the purpose is, except perhaps to help other people understand that even though they have been overlooked, they might in fact be fascinating. Take classes, share my joy with others who have suffered and speak. Yeah, we're seeing some themes here. Competing in spoken word poetry slams to increase authentic risk and defeat fears leading to writing a book. Isadora, that's so on target. What you've done is set yourself a goal you know you can realize. It'll challenge you. It'll put you outside your comfort zone and into what I call your gulp zone, but that's a great place to be. You also understand that it's an interim step between where you are, not writing a book, and where you want to be writing a book. You understand that your poetry engagement is somewhere along that same path. And this brings me back to the controlling idea that your path kind of extends in all directions and is always moving forward. To recap, to use the tools that I'm sharing with you now, think of a passion and a purpose that you know you have. Think of where or how your passion and your purpose might intersect. Think of the steps that you take to place yourself at that intersection, and then take those steps. You are now in your practice. You are doing what you love for the sake of something you care about, and that's all you ever have to do. I mean, this can be as simple as composing a poem for a loved one, taking something that you love, writing poetry, and assigning it, applying it to something you care about, giving a gift to a loved one. Or you might write a novel about a social issue that's important to you, or like me, you might do 100 self-portraits in 100 days as a fundraiser for charity. Seems easy, right? Not quite as easy as all that. Why? Because fear stands in the way. And you know it's important because I'm pointing. Fear stands in the way. We manifest fear in so many different ways. Ways like procrastination, inertia, writer's block, perfectionism. These are all just names we give to the same fundamental thing. It all boils down to not just fear, but fear of failure. We fear to fail. And anytime we set out to achieve, the fear of failure has the potential to stop us cold. Well, I don't want that, and you don't want that. We don't want to put ourselves in our practice guaranteed to fail. We want to put ourselves in a practice guaranteed to succeed. And the way we're going to do this is by changing our understanding of what success and failure is. When we think about fear of failure, what we're really thinking about is the fear of bad outcomes. We're afraid to create something that leaves us feeling bad about ourselves. And the fear of doing that is so strong that it will keep us from acting at all. When we're in our practice, we don't think about that. We set a different goal, not to achieve, not to create outcomes, but simply to grow our practice, to take more steps, to put ourselves more squarely at the intersection of what we love to do and what we care about over and over again. Easier said than done, right? All you have to do is focus on process, not outcome, and don't fear failure. That's useless to me. I can't get anywhere with that. It's like saying, if you're afraid of snakes, don't be afraid of snakes. So I'm going to use a structure instead. And I hope that if you grasp this following point, it will help you be less fearful day in and day out in your creative practice. Here's what happens. When expectations are high, pressure is high. Expectations like this is going to be great, or this is very important, or this is going to be where my career takes me. That's a high expectation. But with high expectation comes high pressure. And when pressure is high, you know this from your own experience, performance is low. High pressure makes it hard to operate effectively. Anybody who's ever been in a situation where the game is on the line knows what this is like. So when pressure is high, performance is low. But when expectations go down, pressure goes down. And when pressure is low, performance is high. You know that nothing's at stake. You're not afraid to fail. You're free to explore. You will do better the very thing that you want to do well. So When you're thinking about fear and thinking about the negative impact that it has on your professional life, on your career, on your writing life, on your practice, there's only one thing you need to remember. To raise performance, lower expectation. To raise performance, lower expectation. And to achieve this result, do one simple thing: be in your practice. Whether it's a good outcome or a bad outcome, a good writing day or a bad writing day, it is a day when you are in your practice. And every day that you're in the practice makes you better at being in the practice. Whether you succeed on the page or fail on the page doesn't matter. Engaging in your practice, being on your path, advancing toward your passion, advancing toward your purpose, that's what gets the job done, without expectation and therefore without fear. When you are legitimately in your practice, authentically doing what you do for the sake of doing it better and nothing else, then you're not concerned with outcomes. You are only concerned with refining your understanding of yourself, your passion, your purpose, your path, and ultimately your power, all of which you get to simply by practicing your craft. When you practice your craft, your outcomes improve and you improve. And so we arrive at a kind of a magical destination. We're so worried about outcomes. They put so much pressure on them. But the minute we say, forget about outcomes, just be in your practice, the fear of bad outcomes goes away and our practice improves. So here's the magic. To serve your outcomes, ignore your outcomes. Or as I like to put it, save your ego for the award ceremony. It's an amazing alchemy. The minute you stop worrying about bad outcomes, your outcomes improve. The minute you start worrying about bad outcomes, your outcomes degrade. Anytime you find yourself caught in this bind, whether it's writer's block or procrastination or perfectionism, just say to yourself, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is practice. I am now, today, in my practice. I will be tomorrow in my practice. I'm on my path. I'm advancing along my path at the natural speed of my life, one day at a time. Outcomes don't matter. Pressure doesn't matter. All that matters is being in my practice and staying in my practice. And so we arrive at setting the goal of doing work today and experiencing ourselves doing that work. Day by day in our practice, we seek to deepen our self-understanding by studying how we do what we do. This combination of action, writing, and reflection, studying our writing process, this combination of action and reflection creates a positive feedback loop that absolutely drives your growth. This is how you make your life rise, without expectation and therefore without fear, through practice. Simple, joyful practice. And as you can see, I have fulfilled my purpose by giving you this workshop and giving you some new tools. And now I will fulfill my other purpose of encouraging you to be more engaged with me by inviting your questions. I see a Laura Engelhand.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Thank you for all of this. I truly believe what you're saying, and I needed the reminder not to worry so much about the outcome, because it's so liberating to me when I let it go and just practice my writing. And I have this fear all the time, like it's taking me so long to do this. And I feel like I finally have completed my book, but I continually look at it and change things around. And I know that from reading, I know that most writers do that forever, and you can do it forever. But when do you get to a point when you can just breathe? I mean, I just worry. I try not to worry about the outcome, but I do. I worry about if I wasted 3 years of my life, and I know I haven't, because so much has come to me from writing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I wonder, gosh, is this
yeah, yeah. I can speak to this from long experience. My writing practice is an iceberg. I operate at and sell the tip of the iceberg. But without the 99% of the stuff that's unseen beneath the waves, none of it works. Most of writing is inefficient. It's just the nature of the beast. But on a more practical level, you're asking the question, how do I know when it's good? How do I know when I can look at my work and say, yes, this satisfies me? It's hard to achieve that sense of confidence. The path to it is getting good at saying to yourself, I can do better. If you have the experience over and over again of saying, this isn't up to my satisfaction, I can work on this, I can refine this, I can improve this. When you look at your own work, not through the filter of, I hope it works, or I wished it worked, or I fear it doesn't work, but simply kind of objectively. There's a gap between where the work is and where I want it to be, and I haven't closed that gap yet, so I'm going to keep at it. If you have the practice of being a pretty good editor to yourself, then when it comes time to say, now the work is done, now I can put down my tools, you'll find that you can trust that this is true, that it's not a lie you're telling yourself just to get out of the bind that you're in. I'm going to put it in simple terms, and you might want to write this down, folks. To trust your yes, get a lot of practice with your no. If you get used to telling yourself, no, it's not good enough, and you know that you don't let yourself off the hook until it is good enough, then when it's good enough, you can trust that you know it's good enough, and you can trust that it's true. A little bit more fundamental to that, how done is done. When I started out making art for the first time in my life, just 3 or 4 years ago, for the first time in my life, I realized I had no way of judging whether my work was any good. And so I had to kind of build this ad hoc system where I said, well, the things that I decide to be good are things that I call good. And when I look at it and I say that's good, then I'm going to set it aside and move on to something else. And I found that even if I didn't trust my evaluation of my own work, if I pretended to trust it, over time I started to trust it more, kind of built myself up in a bootstrap sort of way. I want to circle back to a question that Lisa Church answered. Do you ever set rewards for practice? Lisa, I think I understand what you're driving at here. If I spend a half an hour writing, I get a cookie. Or if I spend 2 days writing, I get to go on vacation, or whatever it is. I've wrestled with this. I've used this strategy myself many times, but I kind of think it's a flawed strategy because the implication is I'm suffering right now. If I'm in my practice, I'm getting through something. I'm forcing myself to do something for the sake of getting to the reward that I'm dangling like a carrot in front of me. In a perfect world, I don't have to reward myself for being in my practice because I want to be in my practice and I love to be in my practice. If you're not yet in that perfect world, the simple answer is more practice. Because what's really happening there is the creative act is painful to you for some reason related to fear. There's some unresolved fear issue that makes you look at the work and look at yourself doing the work and say, this is like pulling teeth. This is agony. I'm suffering. But if I just suffer for another half an hour more, I'll get a cup of coffee. And won't that be great?
I noticed that some of it is, and I don't know if it's a female thing or it's just anybody, but I'll go to the paid work and get that done. Mm-hmm. And the house stuff, you know what I mean, where I have commitments to other people. Sure. Mm-hmm. And so some of the reward or something like that is sometimes to carve that time out for myself.
I understand. I think maybe try it the other way around. The phrase that I would use is, if you're going to procrastinate later. Do the work first and then do the obligations afterward. And there's another issue, Lisa, we don't really have time to get into it in great detail, but you might find that you are in conflict with those around you for control of your time, that those people who are around you don't necessarily value or honor the work that you're doing for yourself and with yourself. You know, you close the door to the spouse and the kids and you say, I can't be disturbed now because I'm writing. Well, if they don't take you seriously as a writer, then they don't really respect your decision to own that time. And this is why this idea of practice is so useful, because practice is worth doing just for itself. So you don't have to say to your loved ones, I need this time to write because I plan to write a novel someday that will be a Pulitzer Prize winner. Then the people around you say, realistically, that's not going to happen, therefore I don't have to honor your goals. But if you say to them, I need to spend this time writing because it's required by my practice requires my time, and my goal is to improve my practice, and the way that I improve my practice is by doing my practice, that's an argument that makes sense. Then people can look at you and say, Lisa is serving herself, or John is serving himself, making his life rise, making himself a better person so that he can be better for the people around him as well. This is a strategy that I use when I'm kind of trying to defend my time. And that can get even worse if you're looking at people who don't just want your time, but kind of actively want to subvert your goals. Let's not go down that road. That's an unhappy place. I hope you're not there. But if you find yourself in the situation where you're doing other things ahead of the work that you really want to do, undoubtedly it's because you definitely want to do the work, but you also definitely are afraid to do the work. So recognize that as individuals in creative process, we're always fighting with our fear. We always have a dynamic and lifelong relationship with our fear. Hey, I'm at the other end of my life and my fear hasn't gone away. But I'll tell you this, in my early writing career, I spent 4 minutes worrying for every 1 minute of writing. Every 5 minutes I spent, 1 minute of writing, 4 minutes of bleh. Now, at this stage in my life, it's kind of the other way around. I can spend 4 minutes of writing and only 1 minute of worrying. But it doesn't mean I don't worry, and it doesn't mean I'm not afraid. Those things never go away. What we're looking at are strategies to make our fear manageable so it doesn't slow us down or block us, and so that when we're in our practice, we can be in our practice with joy. So there, that's what I would think about that. Hey, John, how have you decided which passion to focus on? Can you tell us about a time when you've let go of a passion in favor of a purpose? Yeah, I can speak to that in a couple of ways. I have presented myself to you as a writer and an artist, but the transition between the two was a fraught transition for me. I became an artist because I wasn't functioning as a writer anymore. I'd lost my writing mojo. This happens from time to time. I also had an injury that kept me from writing for a short period of time, so I decided I'm going to take up art. I'm going to try this thing I've never done before. Not with the expectation of getting good at it, but just with the expectation of learning something more about myself. And I've learned so much. I can't believe I wasted my whole life only being a writer, when I could have been a writer and an artist all along and fed those two things back and forth to each other. A musician, a playwright, an actor, there are a lot of different things I could be doing. How do I decide which passion to focus on? I just ask, what is drawing me now? Because I recognize no matter where I invest my passion, something is going to get better. I'm going to learn something about myself that I didn't know before, and I'm going to be able to use that in other things. I could tell you off the top of my head 15, 20 things I've learned about myself as a writer from being an artist. I've learned things about what a bogus choice looks like. I've learned about letting go. I've learned about operating in my fear zone. I've learned about embracing the unknown. I've learned about starting over, and on again. So I expect no matter what passion I'm pursuing, and no matter how my art is manifesting itself, it's paying dividends across the entire scope of my engagements, because it's all contributing to making me more me, to making me as a creative practitioner more self-aware, more self-accepting, more insightful, and so on and so forth. The other half of the question, have I ever let go of passion in favor of a purpose? Not exactly. I can give you an example that almost works. I have a passion for, I have a passion for writing and a passion for teaching writers. And I have a purpose of helping writers specifically in developing countries. I have an affection or a fondness for the third world. Now, if I go into a third world environment as a writer and as a teacher of writers, my passion and my purpose are in close harmony, because I am passionate about writing and I'm serving my purpose of teaching writers in an environment that needs it. But if I go to a third world country, let's say with Habitat for Humanity, to build a house, my passion and purpose are not aligned. My purpose is being served, but I have no passion for building. I have no aptitude for it and no real desire for it. So I'm not making the most of what I can do when I put my passion and my purpose in harmony with one another? I don't feel like I've exactly answered that question, but I'm going to have to let it go because our clock is ticking. How do you feel about setting big, audacious goals? Letting go of the need for the goals to manifest. I can look at this 100-head project. When I started it out, I said to myself, I don't know if I'm going to raise $1 for charity. I don't even know if I'm going to pull it off. I might lose interest or run out of steam, but I'm going to try. And if the worst that happens is I fail and I don't complete the project, oh well, I started a project and didn't complete it. I got a long, long list of projects that I've started and never completed for one reason or another. I think it's all part of the plan. I think I've learned as much from what the world would call failures as I have learned from my successes. Because again, everything always feeds back into who I am as a writer and who I am as a person, who I am as an artist. And as long as I keep that feedback loop alive, as long as I'm looking at myself doing what I'm doing, it doesn't matter whether what I'm doing bears external fruit or not. Here's a wonderful comment from Libby. Your words are so all-inclusive to the answer of letting go of fear. I can't even think of a question to ask. Great, okay, then the answer is let go of fear. Hey guys, we're running rapidly out of time. I want to touch on something really silly. Marnie asked me, how can people be in touch with you? And I just want you to know I'm completely open and accessible to you. You have my name, it's John Vorhaus, which means you have my email address. It's john.vorhaus@gmail.com. And now I want to show you something, and I'm going to laugh when I show it to you. Well, I hope to laugh. What you're looking at here is a little thumb drive, a USB stick. Today, July 11th, 2020, I was supposed to be in Cologne, Germany, in the middle of my summer tour, 6-8 weeks of teaching and training writers all over Europe. And I made like hundreds of these with a bunch of my books on them because they sell like crazy in Europe. I whip out a bag of these. They contain the comic toolbox, the little book of sitcom, comedy writing for life, and a mystery book. And I sell them for 20 euros on the spot. And they go like crazy. People love them. But now I got a bag of them sitting on my desk. So here's what I propose. If you're interested in having a big chunk of my library, all you got to do is reach out to me by email. We'll work it out. You can send me $20 by PayPal. I can send you this digital stick in the mail, and that'll be a fun treat for you to receive. Or I can send you the files. They're all PDF files. I can send them to you, over the internet. And if you're not interested in the comedy writing books, reach out to me anyhow. I've got a bunch of books that'll be useful to you. We'll work out together. We'll put together a generous package just for you. If that doesn't suit you, you can find my books on Amazon in both print and digital versions. And if you're interested in print versions of anything, especially signed print versions of anything, just send me an email or go to my website, johnvorhaus.com, and use the contact link there, or even use the order forms there. It's all right there. I wish I had a better means of promoting myself and selling my products, but I am a child of the 60s, and so my approach to many, many things is kind of analog and very cottage industry. I used to grieve about that, but now I find it's my purpose, it's my path, it's my passion, it's the way I operate. And when I operate as I operate, then I'm comfortable with myself, and I'm in harmony with myself, and everything works better for me. We're going to keep you on for 5 more minutes if you want to grab another question. Yes, I do. You're wonderful, John. Oh, please, how can I experience ego death if everyone keeps telling me how wonderful I am? Behind that joke is a real interesting thing to look at. We need, as humans, we need a validation. And a certain trap that we run into is externalizing our validation. We say, I will feel good about myself if other people tell me that I'm good. And this is a thing called externalizing validation. And it's kind of a trap that a lot of us have been in at one time or another in our lives. If you find that you can only feel good about yourself when other people tell you you are worthy of feeling good, or give you praise or validation or approval, that's something you want to take a look at. Because you really don't need to be inside that trap. And the easiest way to get out of it is to understand there's a fundamental difference between fearing you are not worthy and knowing you are not worthy. Fearing you're not worthy means I secretly think I'm a fraud and people are going to find out and they're going to hate me and kill me to death. Knowing you're not worthy is simply understanding I was lucky enough to be born. I am the recipient of marvelous gifts. I've been playing with the house's money since the day I first draw a breath. I'm not worthy, but I am bestowed upon with marvelous gifts, and therefore I have nothing to lose. They can hate me, they can fear me, they can call me a fraud to my face. It doesn't matter. I already know I'm not worthy. So you can't possibly hurt me by telling me I'm not worthy. That's a subtle message, and it takes a long time to internalize. But if part of your struggle, ladies and gentlemen, if part of your struggle is getting out of the trap of needing other people to tell you that you're on the right path, that's the way out of it. You're on the right path simply by the fact of being on the path. Your path is your path. No one can change it. No one can take it away. But if you let other people have control over how you feel about being on that path, then that's a problem for you. It's a problem you can erase simply by taking that control back and saying, the person I am is the only person who matters when it comes to this person feeling good about himself or herself. What if I fear success? What if I'm feeling so much pain because of everything that's going on that it feels indulgent to be creative? Well, those are two kind of different questions. What if I fear success? Deal with it when it comes. That's what I would say. Don't worry about it until it's a problem. Although I have to laugh at myself when I say that, because I've spent a lot of time not being famous. I've spent a lot of time being this tiny bit famous and never really been able to, or I think secretly desired to be much more than that. So maybe you find a level of success that you're comfortable with and operate there. But this issue of feeling so much pain because of everything that's going on, understand, folks, COVID-19 is operating on us and within us profoundly every single day. And the main way that it's operating on us is making us feel out of control, at the mercy of forces we can't control. For the first time in all of our lives, there is a thing happening in the world that's happening to everyone in the world all at the same time that no one can really manage. And that is likely to engender within us feelings of panic, despair, impatience. Time's a wasting. I have to make my statement, do it all right now while this passion burns within me. You've already experienced it yourself. Your passion has ebbed and flowed. When coronavirus first broke out, everybody was so excited. We all got on Zoom and we all did podcasts and we all did webinars. And then we kind of burnt out on that. And then things settled down and looked like we might get out of it. And now it's all rushing back and we're feeling, they call it a second wave, extended first wave. I don't know. I'm feeling a second wave of panic. Like back in May, I thought, hey, maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And now all I can see is just more tunnel. And like you, it's inspiring me to be creative, but almost panic creative. So I would say to you, as I would say to myself, slow down, take a breath. Everything you do has value. The words that you put on the page contribute to your growth as a writer, and that's the only thing that really matters. If you get secondary benefit by putting those words in front of other people, and those words are meaningful to those other people, that's good, that's great. But you're not going to fix coronavirus. I'm not going to fix coronavirus. Even our voice in the wilderness is really just one voice in the wilderness. Just like the only person who has to validate you is you, the only person you really need to minister to is you. And I'm laughing at myself as I say that because I am so hard in my ministry right now. I'm like pushing my ministry at you. I want to change your life. I want to inspire you and transpire you and transform you. But at the end of the day, if I'm honest with myself, why am I doing it? Because it makes me feel good about me. It makes me feel like I'm in service. It makes me feel like my time is being well spent, like my effort, my intellectual capacity are not being wasted. So even though it seems very much like I'm doing it for you, it is very much that I'm doing it for me. Marnie, I'm just going to keep yakking until you tell me to shut up. All right, oh, there we go. Good.
Back in for you right now.
There you go. There, that was a sprint, huh? I feel like I've been falling down a mountain creek for the last 45 minutes, trying to keep my momentum up and not fall forward on my face.
Well, and I've just been getting all these texts and messages from Facebook. I think this is such an important message right now. People are really responding and feeling like, you know, enthused, that sense that you have when you teach, where you just sort of feel like filled with spirit. I could sense that being on purpose and people really feeling your energy. So thank you so much for that, John.
Can I tell you, I feel better in this moment than I felt all week.
Wow.
Because it's been a tough week. You know it has, and I know it has. And it's a million degrees here in Southern California, and there's no place to go and no one to be. But right now I feel transformed. I got what I came for. I hope everybody else did too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, do you also are you teaching now? Like, can people catch you on?
I'm not currently running any series. I do from time to time. Here's what I propose: reach out to me on Facebook, or even better, send me an email. If you send me an email, I'll add you to my newsletter, the Noise Letter, and then if and when I ever do anything, you'll know about it because you'll receive word from me.
Or I'll just rope you back into something.
And that will work too. I think the downside of being so happy in my work is that I'm content just to be in my work. Mm-hmm. And but then people like you, Marty, come along and say, well, you want to share? And I can't say no. So,
well, the funny thing is we were going to be like, oh, you don't need to come this year. And then, of course, I'm going to have you back every year. I can have you back. So.
Yeah.
What an awesome problem to have, John, that you're so happy with what you're doing and so engaged in what you're doing that keeps you going every day. Because I think that's something that a lot of us are struggling with. And I was taking notes while you were talking. I was frantically writing down, and the way you broke it down really, really helped me. I was actually texting Marnie while I was one of those people that was texting Marnie about how great it was. And
Anastasia, what did you glean from it? What was your takeaways?
Well, I think, you know, as somebody who wants to be a writer and wants to call myself a writer.
She's a fantastic writer, by the way.
But I also recognized when I was writing down my passions that in addition to writing, one of my other passions is taking care of other people. And doing this festival has kind of allowed me to combine those two things in a really meaningful way, because I'm watching this panel of all these people nodding their heads and I'm thinking, this is helping all of these people. I'm helping take care of it. It made me feel like what I was doing today actually fits with my passions, which was a blessing. So I want to thank you for that.
The phrase I use is ticket to heaven. Is this thing that I'm doing now earning a ticket to heaven? And I don't mean it in a huge sense, but I know that there are many things that I've done in my life that have driven a benefit to other people that are ticket to heaven stuff. And it doesn't have to be big. It can be quite small. But the sum of those small moments make a life that is worth having been lived, if I can carve out that sentence quite poorly. And I just want to say, it's all down to the 100-head project. In desperation, I said to myself, I have a lot of time to fill, and I need something that will mandate that I am at my desk doing a thing every damn day.
And where did that idea come from?
It probably came to me in the shower. I was looking for a project that I could take on that would be a kind of a daily practice sort of thing, and confronting the larger question of how can I present myself as an artist to the world without presenting myself as a needy artist who needs approval or sales. And that's when I thought, if I do it as a fundraiser, then the hidden need for approval and sales, that's in the subtext. and much better off in the subtext. Now the text is, hey, this guy is doing this insane, self-indulgent, really narcissistic, but ultimately useful project because he's earning a few bucks for Doctors Without Borders, and God knows those doctors need all the borders they can get. Yeah. And so what looks like a massive self-indulgence and really a giant waste of time has an overlay of social benefit. And 100 days later, 90, 88 days later, I don't know. I finish up on July 23rd, and I will finish, although I'm telling you that the last few days have been a bit of a struggle. I know that I'm on the last lap. I think maybe I should have called it the 83-day project. But I'll get there. And when I'm done, I'll know something about my capacity and my capability that I didn't know before, that I can pull this kind of thing off. And the next step is to make the 100 heads into a poster. And the next step is to find them somehow, as God is my witness. I'm going to get them into an art gallery somewhere.
Oh, awesome.
Well,
Well,
and I think I love the message that being on the path is worthy of in and of itself. That's such a great message, I think, that we can never hear often enough.
We don't get that message from anybody. Everybody is outcome driven.
right.
And nobody is process driven except the Buddhists. The Buddhists figured it out long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Detached from outcome. That's really all we're talking about.
Yeah, and be in the moment and the joy of it. And that's why I really am enjoying today, because it's forcing us to just be with each other and listen to each other and inspire each other. So this is
and draw energy from each other and
yeah.
and benefit from each other.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, I noticed in the workshop that all of the workshop participants were female. Is that is that reflective of the larger audience for the festival as a whole? Is it mostly?
No, mostly just the people that we draw from that we cultivate. So no, not the festival as a whole. There's lots of we tend to draw from the Memoir Association, which tends to be a little female driven. But we have our awesome men out there, some of them who were texting me and saying they were really enjoying what you were saying. So please come back. Love to have you back for another session.
You know I will.
Okay.
You know I will.
Thank you so much, John.
My pleasure. Be safe. Don't drink bleach.
I won't.
Don't get shot.
Working on both of those.
Okay.
Stay safe and stay well.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.